School. I'm your science teacher. We are going to do a revision of two chapters today, chapter 6 and chapter 14. Now, tissue. Tissue, as what I said, right, that there are single type of cell. Basically, when they get together, they form a tissue. But let us discuss a little more. That unicellular, there are certain organisms which are of unicellular, single cell. For example, amoeba. So, such thing you should know in terms of an MCQ, right? Everything they do carries with a single cell only. For example, movement, intake of food, gaseous exchange, excretion, everything. Okay, but there are cellular organisms which are multicellular. They have different organs to do different functions. There are different cells to do different functions. Right? For example, in human beings, us, the our some cells contract and relax. Right? There are certain nerve cells which send messages, blood cell to transport oxygen, food, hormones, and waste material, right? So in our, there are division of labor means our body functions into different forms, basically different ways to do some certain work. So this cluster of cell, we call it as tissue. So as here is the definition: a group of cells that are similar in structure work together to achieve a particular function, basically, is called a tissue. Remember this thing, this can be asked as a definition. Now, are plants and animal cell different? Definitely. Plants are fixed, stationary, they cannot move. So, definitely, they have supportive tissue. There are certain tissues which are dead. Animals, they can move from one place to another for food, shelter, and mates, right? So, definitely, their tissues are different. In plants, there are certain patterns of growth. There are some tissue that divide throughout the life, right? And there are certain tissue we do not do. There are so basically plant tissue is divided into two: meristematic and permanent tissue. Remember this also. Now we are going to see one by one each of them. So if we talk about meristematic tissue, right? Look here. Meristematic tissue, the growth occurs only in a certain region. This is dividing tissue is known as meristematic tissue. Now meristematic is again divided into three: apical, lateral, intercalary. Apical Apical is there if you see at the top, intercalary and lateral. Apical is there, right, present at the growing step. So basically it will help you to increase the length of stem and root. Intercalary is located near the nodes. So basically branches happen, right, and lateral will increase the girth. Okay, so remember there are three types of tissue: meristematic, apical, lateral, intercalary. Cells of this meristematic tissue are very active, right, and have dense cytoplasm, thin cellulose, and prominent nucleus. They lack vacuoles. That's a storage house. Now we are going to talk about permanent tissue. Permanent tissue are again divided into simple permanent tissue, complex permanent tissue. Now, simple permanent tissue, first of all, this process of taking permanent size, shape, and function is called differentiation. So, differentiation is a process, right, where they categorize into size, shape, and function. Now, simple permanent tissue, the first simple permanent tissue is parenchyma, right? That's the most common permanent tissue. This tissue generally stores food, okay? It contains chlorophyll. So basically, parenchyma is also known as collenchyma if they perform photosynthesis, and if they have air bags, air cavities, then the same can be as arenchyma. So this small differentiation you have to remember. The flexibility of plant is because of another type of tissue. So basically simple permanent tissue is dependent upon parenchyma. Second is collenchyma. Collenchyma is what? Flexibility. It gives you flexibility. So they do not break and provide them mechanical support. Right? Another type of permanent tissue is called sclerenchyma. So simple permanent tissue, as what you see, divided into three. Right? It which makes the plant hard and stiff. For example, the husk of coconut. So remember all this as an MCQ and 1 marks also. Yeah, the epidermis. Now, if you see, they are talking about the same. The epidermis is usually made of single layer. Some plants have very dry habitat. So depending upon where they grow, it has different things into it, right? Now you know guard cells. What do? They help them in protection of loss of water. Okay, they'll open and close. Okay, now small pores, stomata is like a kidney shape, are called guard cells. Transpiration, basically, transpiration is a process so that helps in loss of basically loss of water. They can it can help in loss of water. Okay. Now epidermal cells of this roots which has function absorption and commonly bear a long hair-like structure that increases the total surface area. Now cork are dead cells, right? They also have a substance called suberin, which helps them to improve for the exchange of gases. Now, there are two things for the transport of water and food minerals: xylem and phloem. What does xylem do? Xylem has xylem fibers, this, that, right? Tracheas, vessels, and all. They allow to transport water and minerals vertically, right? They allow water and transport. The parenchyma stores food and xylem phyma mainly supports in function. So basically uh, that transport water and minerals from roots to the upper portion. And phloem is again divided into this. Phloem transport food from leaves to all parts of the plant. So understand, xylem transport water and minerals from roots to, from down to up. And phloem what do? It provide transport food, whatever with the help of photosynthesis the leaves will make food. Those food is reach bottom also and top also, basically. So that's why they said food from leaves to all parts of the plant. Okay, now we are going to talk about is a complex permanent tissue. There are more than one type of xylems and phloem, as what we already discussed. Okay, animal tissue. Now, animal tissues again, epithelial tissue. See, I'm going to show the chart for the same first so that it can help you a little more. Okay, now, okay. See, animal tissue. Animal tissue, as what I said, epithelial tissue. Okay, epithelial tissue is again divided into squamous, stratified, cuboidal, and columnar. Four types of tissues are there. Okay, the outer covering or the protective layer, basically we call it as epithelial tissue. Okay, now epithelial cover most of the most organs and cavities, the skin, the lining of the mouth, the lining of blood vessel, everything. Clear? Now, in cells lining of blood like alveoli by transport of substance, there is a flat kind of tissue. We call it as a squamous epithelial. So remember, where does all these tissues locate? In which organs and where does it use? Simple squamous epithelial are thin and fat, right? Clear? Oesophagus has squamous epithelial. Skin, right? They prevent because of wear and tear, right? Therefore, a layer of patterns is called stratified, many layers. Absorption and secretions, that is for the columnar epithelium, facilitates across the epithelial barrier. Basically, it do not let anything go inside and outside. Cilia, right? So basically, cilia is what they can move and push a mucus forward to clear it. Basically, if you have cough or anything, that can be cleared with the help of cilia. Cuboidal epithelial, right? Kidney tubules and salivary glands, they have mechanical support. Connective tissue is what that connects everywhere. So blood is a type of connective tissue. The cells are loosely spaced and embedded in a particular matrix, jelly or fluid or dense rigid, right? You know how does a blood. Plasma, it has RBC, WBC, remember the full form. Blood flows and transport, you know what does a blood do? Blood can transport food and gases, hormones, waste material. Bone is another kind of connective tissue that anchors our muscles, right? Bone cells. Ligament is another type of connective tissue. It is elastic, right? Ligament, which connects two bones basically. Tendons are connect muscles to bone. So remember such things. Tendons which connect muscles to bone. There is another type of connective tissue called cartilage. The that is that type of tissue you find it on the nose or ears. Areolar connective tissue is found between skin and muscles. Okay, muscular tissue consists of elongated and also called muscle fibers. Now muscle fibers, if you see, they contain special protein called contractile protein, which can help them to contract and relax, right? Now the first is skeletal muscles, straighted muscle, smooth muscle, unstraighted muscle, and cardiac muscle. This muscle, skeletal, mostly called, they are attached to the bones, straighted. They are long cylindrical, as you can see the figure next to it. The moment of food in alimentary canal, right? Involuntary movements, smooth muscles are there. Unstraighted, they found on the iris of the eyes. Eyes, eyes. They can focus on the object. For that, they require muscles. And the last is the cardiac muscle, which is there on the heart, right? Contraction and relaxation happen. Now the last is nervous tissue. All this ability to respond to a stimuli. You react when a fire comes. You move your hand and all. So all this transmission of tissue from one place to another is happen with the nerve cells, which we call nerve cell or neuron, which is very important topic of this chapter. Understand you. We can ask you the diagram of neuron. So please remember the diagram of neuron also, right? As what you see, the parts are called axons, dendrite, nucleus, nerve ending. This carries a signal from one to another and finally to the brain. Okay. So basically, the signal that passes along a nerve are called nerve impulse, and nerve impulse allow us to move our muscles when we want to. Okay. So I think we will just do the revision of only one chapter, chapter number 6. Okay. Thank you so much.